What up, perps? Kid Copious, back in effect. Purple State Party, you know what we're doing here? We're repping America, the center, and common sense. Dang it, dude, do we need common sense? We're going to be looking at a lot of lack of common sense here today. But this one goes out to everybody who watches at work. You know who you are. Love ya. Let's get it popping. Yeah. So, today's Sunday. Usually I record on Saturday, but I didn't record this Saturday because I had to make the 10-hour voyage to Zion to bring back fireworks into Babylon. It was a tough trip. Back was sore. I do a lot of driving. Man, it was hot out there, like 115 degrees. You got out of your car and it was like being in an air fryer simulator. Good God. But it just reminded me that things worth having are worth working for. And that's something that I think is getting lost nowadays. It takes hard work. Even for people who are overnight sensations. They often say, yep, it took me 10 years to become an overnight sensation. I'm in year 4 right now. I'm not an overnight sensation, but anyhow, enough about little old me. Let's get into some BS here. Biden Department of Homeland Security doc suggests that Trump supporters, military, and religious people are likely violent terror threats. Well, as long as you predicate it on violent terror threats, I guess. I'm not sure what all the illegal migrants who are coming over here to commit crimes and to set up drug empires and drug gangs and cartels. I don't know what you would classify them. And, last time I checked, there weren't a lot of military, religious people or Trump supporters at the Floyd riots. There was January 6th, which was pretty much just an out-of-control party, if you ask me. That's my feeling. I'm allowed to have my feelings. But this is what's going on here in America now. We're just going to label each other as political terrorists, domestic terrorists. This was a report on who's capable. Well, maybe we have a little more capability sort of on this side. I voted for Trump. I come from a military family. I've been basically military my entire life. Tried to go in when I was young. Couldn't get signed off on. Threw my life away. That's the short story of my life. Religious? Well, I guess I'm religious. I'm not a recognized religion. I believe in the New Testament, and pretty much that's the end-all, be-all. But I consider myself to be that. Every morning when I put on my cologne, I put it on the sign of the cross, what am I supposed to say? But I'm not a violent terror threat. What about those fuckers at Just Stop Oil? We're going to get to them a little bit later. Blocking traffic. That might not be violent. It might not be terror. It might not even be threats. But if you're stuck in that shit while you're trying to get to the hospital to deliver a baby, I don't know. I don't know how you would feel about that. But, that's the way they want to make it. That's the way they want to play it. That's fine. Babylon B with a great one here. DeSantis announces reparations program of lower taxes, less government, less murder, and endless sunshine. And that's what we could have here in California. We're going to discuss that a little bit more in depth. We live in a state, California, and some other states, Oregon, Washington, New York, where they pay high taxes. They have a suffocating amount of government. And ask Chicago about murder. The only thing the Democrats provide here in California is pretty much endless sunshine. And they have nothing to do with that. Came across this one from the Grillo right there. 5 things white people need to hear on Juneteenth. You know what? Go after yourself. Okay? I get it. Slavery was bad, but that's the way it was. I don't have any more to say about it. I saw a great little exchange today on Instagram. It was with Charlie Kirk. And one of the college students, who happened to be black, says to Charlie, do you take responsibility when a racist white cop shoots a black kid? And Charlie Kirk looked back and said, do you take responsibility every time a black person kills a police officer, and the black kid says no. Well, why should Charlie say yes? None of my relatives owned slaves. None of my relatives were even in the country when slavery was legal. That doesn't absolve me of the fact that slavery was bad. Fine. Slavery was bad. I had nothing to do with that. Trying to beat me over the head with this kind of crap is what turns people off. This is just all white noise to me, man. It's just a fucking buzzing fly that I can ignore. I don't really give a shit. It's not going to change my opinion. I judge people by the content of their character. That's it. The content of their character. Not the color of their skin. You know, I've learned over the years, the color of your skin, that is a really bad way to judge people. You know why? Because it's inaccurate. I saw another one where they were asking a college student how they felt about white people. And they said, oh, no. You know, dating a white guy. No, I hate that. Well, what if you said, how do you feel about black people? And they said, oh, I hate black people. I would never date black people. Look, I'm not standing up against racism against white people. I'm standing up against racism, period. Judging people that way is wrong. I mean, it's a different, you know, you're better off judging people by the football team that they like than by the color of their skin. I could go on and on and on. I'm just going to stop right now. I love this one by the bee. Scientists torn on whether to blame heat wave on climate change, Trump, or white supremacy. It's buzzwords. We're going to get into that a little bit more coming up here. But this is an important kind of statement that's being made here. That this whole blame game it's not productive. It's performative. And that's what we have in this country right now. We have politicians who are performative. They're not substantive. They have no substance. They're not getting anything done. We're going to get into a lot of that in a bit here, but I'm just setting the plates right now, you know? This is the appetizer course. This is a breaking story. Well, not exactly breaking, but it hasn't completely been flushed out. But Oakland Mayor Shang Tao's? I'll go with Tao's. Never heard it said before. Home was raided by FBI agents. When our system is predicated on corrupt politicians, we're all fucked. She happens to be a Democrat, but I'm not going to sit here and pretend that this is just a Democrat problem. This is a politician's problem. Illegal campaign contributions, doing things on the shady side. And she's a horrible mayor. She doesn't take responsibility for things. She doesn't come up with solutions. They propose, we're going to get into this, but they propose solutions that are so fucking kneecapped, they have zero chance of ever being successful. See, when you operate on common sense, you have a very, very high likelihood of success. Why? Because it's the thing that makes sense. And you don't shackle it with all of the other things that you want. Right? We're going to get into that. We're going to see that. We're going to see how really good government programs are kneecapped and shackled right now. And that's one of my greatest complaints that I'm seeing. And I'm seeing it from Democrats more than anything. This whole idea of, here's a great idea, now we're going to surround it with a bunch of shit because we want the shit to go through. And all that is in the beehole, all of America, Oakland, cities, counties, states, the nation, just getting shafted by politicians who aren't willing to actually fucking do anything. Secret Service agent robbed at gunpoint during Biden trip to California. You can't make this shit up. I mean, it was an unnamed agent who was off duty. I don't know how that makes it any different. And this happened in Tustin. I know Tustin. If you were going to ask me, I'd say, well, Tustin's pretty safe. You know, it's in Orange County. But this is the kind of crap that's happening. And why was Biden here? He was here for a glitzy campaign stop with Barack Obama, George Clooney, Julia Roberts, and that fucktard Jimmy Kimmel. I don't know. Jimmy Kimmel started off on a show that I really loved, Kevin and Bean Show. Still listen to it. I listen to old repeats. I miss those guys. I miss that chemistry. But to see Jimmy start out there and work his way up used to be something that I was kind of proud of. But he has turned into such a propaganda puppet. Look at him right there. Had a great time catching up with a few good friends. Together we will beat Donald Trump. You notice, see, that's the thrust. Beat Donald Trump. It's not fix America. It's not actually deliver on anything. It's we're going to win the game. That's all we asked for. And so this is from a New York Times columnist. New York Times, very blue, very liberal. They bemoan what we liberals have done to the West Coast. And he says, face the painful fact that something has gone badly wrong where we're in charge, from San Diego to Seattle. The inability of progressives to deal with the nitty-gritty of governing and to get something done is just staggering. This is coming from a Democrat in Oregon. People are much more interested in ideology than in actual results. So that's what we're holding our politicians to now. Just win and nothing more. These are not sports teams. I get sports teams. As long as you're winning, the fans will come, they'll pack the seats. But when the team starts losing, people leave. Well, where's the recognition of all of the Democrat losses lately? He critiqued the West Coast liberals' tendency to be performative rather than substantive. That's where I got that from. Citing Oregon's decision to funnel education dollars into putting free tampons in the boys' bathrooms beginning in kindergarten. In kindergarten. I'm not sure kids of that age even need tampons. That's the performative. That's the ideology over results. The two states with the highest rates of unsheltered homelessness are California and Oregon. The three states with the lowest rates are blue in the Northeast, Vermont, New York, and Maine. Liberal Massachusetts has some of the finest public schools in the country, while liberal Washington and Oregon and California have below average high school graduation rates. California got their graduation rates up by making graduation requirements a lot easier. West Coast liberals accept a yawning gulf between our values and our outcomes, Christoph observes in the column, declaring things like housing is a human right, while failing to actually get people housed. He said the West Coast brand of liberalism is infected with an ideological purity that is focused more on intentions than on oversight and outcomes. Look, I'm happy for all of those viewpoints. The whole housing is a human right. Sure, let's go for it. But are you going to do it the right way? Or are you just going to let a bunch of drug addicts and drunks and crazy people destroy the buildings? They just put up a big building out here, something like $600,000 a unit to build. What's going to happen if you have no requirements on them? But Christoph here brings up a great point. It's the lack of political competition. Perhaps on the West Coast, we have an ideological purity because there isn't much political competition. Republicans are irrelevant. All right, well, then let's bring on fucking purple, dude. Because we need to do something to fix some of these problems. I understand the intentions of a guy like Gascon. I understand his intentions. But those ideals cannot apply to every single criminal. I understand sanctuary cities. I understand that if an illegal immigrant is a witness to a crime or the victim of a crime, maybe they shouldn't be deported. I agree with that. But taking that philosophy and putting it onto criminals is just stupid. And that's what we're doing here. This person does fail to mention that New York is a little bit like that too, where they're fucking cuckoo crazy. And nobody holds their feet to the fire. If their ideas were working, I would get it, but they're not. And here's another great example of where it's not working. Over $42 billion and 3 years later, Biden's rural high-speed internet plan hasn't connected a single home. This is something I was behind. Sure, high-speed internet, you could stream more stuff. You can get better porn, I guess. I don't know. I am sure there's lots of downsides to it. But I'll tell you this. Allowing, especially children, the ability to go on to some of these community-type games, I think is a godsend. Okay? I know it's plagued with problems. I know there are problems out there. Okay? But I also know that that's where my daughter met her fiance, playing Fortnite. I know that high-speed internet will allow people to do more in those areas, including business, commerce, shit like that. But not one home has been connected. And this is echoing the electric vehicle chargers. We know right now that 8 stations have been built in 3 years, right? So his other big pledge in 21, unserved Americans would soon have reliable high-speed internet. Like the electric vehicle charging stations, this conductivity has failed to materialize. Dude who wrote this says we're barreling towards a broadband blender. Isn't it simple? Give companies money to invest in rural areas so that they could bring high-speed internet to rural areas. And that would also include Indian reservations, because a lot of that's considered rural. But instead of just giving them money, it's all about their DEI. Let's look at what Brendan Carr here says. He's a Republican commissioner on the FCC. In 2021, the Biden administration got $42.4 billion from Congress to deploy high-speed internet to millions of America. Years later, it has not connected even one person with those funds. In fact, it now says that no construction projects will even start until 2025 at the earliest. DEI is what got in the way. To qualify for this money, you have to have X amount of minority employees. You have to have X amount of justice-impacted people. So you have to hire ex-cons to go install high-speed internet into rural areas. That doesn't sound like maybe the best idea. You know, you kind of gotta, err on the side of caution with those kind of things. And they also have to have community events to spread the news in an inclusive way. So essentially what they're saying is, yes, rural America, you will get your internet, but only after you've heard what we have to say about diversity, equity, and inclusion. What if you're in an area where you just can't meet those standards? Well, you don't get the money. And if there's not a lot of customers, it's not worth it for the private enterprise to get in there. Carr went on to say the Biden administration's failure to turn even a single shovel's worth of dirt with this $42 billion is not predictable. It was predicted. And he's referencing a letter from August 18th, 2022, from a number of U.S. senators, which indicated the initiative might be ill-fated. There were unnecessary burdens. It's a complex 9-step illustrative, I'm going to have to look that up, I've never seen that word before, structure and review process. Yes, because you have to be green about it. You have to meet the green initiatives too. Excessive bureaucracy is what's stopping people in rural areas from having high-speed internet. Shit that doesn't apply. Why don't you just give the money to qualified companies? Companies that have certain ratings with the Better Business Bureaus. Companies that have enough employees and infrastructure to support said project. And who go through a bidding process. The commissioner made clear that the Biden administration has not only failed to deliver, but has also kneecapped those who could, revoking an award to Starlink that would have delivered high-speed internet to over 600,000 rural locations. Probably because he doesn't like the way Musk talks about the current administration. It shouldn't fucking matter what somebody's political opinion is. Can they deliver? That should be the one qualifying fact. Can they deliver? I don't give a shit about the diversity, equity, and inclusion crap. If I'm out there on a farm and high-speed internet would make my family's life better, my business better, I want my fucking internet. I'm lucky I have high-speed internet. I know what a difference maker that was. I know what a difference maker that would be for these people. But no, it's kneecapped because we can't just put in a fucking internet cable. We have to teach everybody, right? We have to get them on board with our way of thinking. It's bullshit. The Biden administration's policy cuts makes clear we're barreling towards a broadband blunder. Rate regulation, thumb on the scale for government-run networks because that's where they want to put their money. Technology bias, union preferences, that's another thing. The company that installs it has to be union. Many of the broadband builders that would normally bid to do this work are not expressing interest in taking these dollars. So we're right back to, well, it's just not profitable to run all of that high-speed line way out there to the two farms that are 12 miles from the nearest city. That's what the government was supposed to do, was say, hey, here's the money to do it, and then you could have them as customers. But you fucking shackle it, kneecap it. Here's another kneecap. New York lawmakers threatened to ban insurance for fossil fuel projects. A new proposal in New York. Remember what I said? New York's fucking crazy too. They would prohibit insurance companies from doing business in the state if they insure businesses that make over 10% of their money from fossil fuels. And it could backfire, and insurers just leave, and then the customers suffer because the rich people who make these fucking laws will have no problem self-insuring for all intents and purposes, whatever projects they want. But this is the government forcing. A government that has to force change upon its people is not the government of America. This is not what Washington and all those other dudes conjured up. Forcing ideals and bad policies. This is not what people are asking for. People are not asking for things to be prohibitively expensive. These pieces of legislation aim to kneecap fossil fuel companies by undercutting their funding. New York does not want insurers who do business with fossil fuels. So they're going to outlaw them. That's forcing. That is a government forcing their opinion onto the people. This dude who's with Communities for Change, there's no real magic bullet to stopping the oil or gas beast. But to the extent that there is, it could be insurance. No insurance, no projects. No progress. No heating. No electricity. No reliability. This dude who sponsored it, insurance is a very powerful cudgel. A cudgel. A stick for whacking people. You see? They're forcing it. They're not asking the people of New York if that's what they want. They're just doing it. Instead of worrying about problems that actually exist. Gas is not going anywhere. The oil and gas beast? Are you fucking kidding me? Without oil and gas, we would still be rubbing sticks together to cook the rabbits that we cook with our fucking wooden spears. All right? Without oil, there wouldn't be plastics. We'd all be living in a world of fucking salmonella and everything fucking else. I understand that it's bad for the planet. I'm cool with that. I'm cool with cutting back. But I'm not going to demonize it. But that's what these fuckers have to do. They have to demonize this stuff. Because they can't do it with logic and common sense. So they have to force it down our throats. Gavin Newsom supposedly balanced our budget, but of course he's cutting money out of the prisons and he's delaying the healthcare workers' minimum wage increase to help balance budget. Yeah, he was all behind McDonald's burger flippers getting $20 an hour, but not a fucking nurse who has to clean up patients' shit every day. No, because that's going to actually cost the state money. But the train, god dang it, you better not fund that train, buddy. That train is dead in the water. And you leave it dead in the water and you don't sink another fucking cent into it. You're putting this on the back of healthcare workers. But you're still going to keep all of the bullshit government positions that you have. Diversity equity managers, counselors for change, whatever stupid ass shit you put in there. You're going to pump money into the homeless projects with no accountability, but you're going to screw over the nurses. Man, you just go to one convalescent home. You spend any amount of time there, and you will have a deeper understanding of why these healthcare workers deserve to have that increase. I was not for the fast food. Fuck fast food. Okay, we could all do better without it. But healthcare workers? Okay. Again, forcing their political ideology. Bragg in Manhattan is dropping nearly all cases from the Columbia University protests. Nearly all of the people who stormed and occupied. I'm sorry, you stormed and occupied and you're saying that a Trump supporter is more likely to commit domestic terrorism when they're out there doing that? Right. The beating up Jewish students, harassing Jewish students, yelling slurs at Jewish students, and then illegally occupying buildings. Well, look at one of these guys, this James Carlson piece of shit. He's the son of millionaire ad executives who owns a $2.3 million home in Park Slope. I'm guessing that's a rich part of town, Park Slope, but it sounds janky as hell to me. But he's the possible leader. And look what he did. He torched an Israeli supporter's flag, so he burned an Israeli flag, and then hit the 22-year-old in the face with a rock. Because daddy and mommy, they're going to get him out of jail. Fuck these people, man. Bury them under there. And stop trying to say that religious people and ex-military and Trump supporters are the ones to worry about when you got shitheads out here like this. They went after Stonehenge. They've gone after artwork. They've glued themselves to things. They tried to spray paint Taylor Swift's plane. They broke into an airport. They're convincing these kids to commit federal crimes to stop oil, which ain't going to happen. Oh, speaking of just stop oil, this reporter basically had this Adrian Johnson piece of shit on, and she basically said, people are fed up with you. You know, here's some of it. Stonehenge vandals slammed as colonists as woke left-wing infighting breaks out. Okay, whatever. But they went after Taylor Swift's plane. So Camilla here says, you're getting the publicity, but nobody's talking about what you really want them to talk about, which is the climate emergency. They're just thinking to themselves, why don't just stop oil, just stop? Exactly. And when asked why they don't go to the Chinese embassy, they claim that the UK produces the same emissions per person as China. Okay, I'm not sure what that's supposed to mean. I'm not going to read too much into it, but what a clever little excuse from this piece of shit. But oil ain't going to stop. And they're saying that we're a threat to democracy. Well, I'm a threat to the two political parties. A very, very small threat. But maybe I'm the seed that grows into a big tree. Because I'm tired of both parties. I'm tired of the fact that both parties have it wrapped up to the point where all it is about winning. And nobody really cares. Now, that leads me into this Bronco right here. We can't allow you to vote for who you want or what you want. California recently stripped out, we'll go back here for a second, blocked an anti-tax measure from the California ballot. It's an extraordinary decision that marks the first time in more than 20 years that the court has struck down an initiative from a ballot following a full hearing. 1999 was the last time. It's a gut punch. But the state Supreme Court has now clearly sent a signal that they are part of the progressive agenda in California, that we are a one-party state in California, and there is no independent judiciary in California. All they were asking for was, if you're going to raise our taxes, let us vote on it. And they said no. All we want is a change in the White House to try to get shit back on track. Things are off track right now. You could throw metrics at me where this is a little bit better and this is a little bit better, but it's bullshit. Okay? Look around you. If you're one of the privileged people, step outside if you're privileged for a little while and look at what the rest of us are going through. The amount of money that it costs just for us to get by anymore. And nobody seems to be doing anything about it. And the border's getting worse. And the world is getting worse. Russia and North Korea are now openly colluding Russian warships off of Cuba. And Joe Biden just sitting there with his thumb up his ass, worrying about green DEI. But look at all of that. Climate change agenda, open borders, inflation, lawfare. The last 3 years can certainly be the turning point in America being the great country that it is. Everything's shackled. Nothing's being done. You can't even install internet to far-flung places without fucking it up. I'm telling you right now, any gains, any positives that have happened on Joe Biden's side have been flukes. You can say that about Trump if you want. I don't care. I'm not here to argue that. But these people, the Democratic Party, under their now Marxist leftist way of thinking, hates America and wants to fucking destroy it. Purple State wants to put it back together. Purple State is in a position to say that we have to vote for Trump now because of how bad this guy is. There is no third party out there that could really rival these guys. Maybe Trump will make it worse. But I kind of doubt it. Maybe he could get rural Kansas hooked up to some high-speed internet so they could go on and do some gaming. Fucking love gaming, man. I'm Kid Copious. I'm Purple State Party. And so are you. Get your toes in some grass. Love one another. Drink your water. Hug your parents. And for God's sakes, never forget to dance it out.